I'm gonna shoot you up with something that's gonna kill you deader than a hammer.
Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen of the Inquisition? My name is Shiv, and today I'm going to show you how to tank as a satyr. Yes, lots of fun. Alright, so, you want to be a tank. Okay? So, here's what you need to understand about being a tank in Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. You are going to be under fire a lot, which means you need to play to your two primary defensive values. And those would be Deflection and damage reduction. Deflection, probably the most primary of your defensive stats. It caps out at 70, and I'm going to tell you right now, there are ways of getting this to 70 very easy, all right, with the least amount of gear involved. Matter of fact, if you look at my gear, we have just deflection off range. We have not much there. Nothing. 1% deflect there. Nothing. We're getting a big bunch from here because that's actually like 20% right there. Times 2 is 40 deflect value right off that alone. No deflect value, no deflect value. And here we're getting another 10. So, yeah, you don't really need much in order to get all that value. Yeah, so you got like 2% right there. That's it. So, hitting 70 is actually really easy. Damage reduction, getting this to 40%, great. If you can get it higher, even better. Resist-wise, I would highly recommend you try to get more physical resist. We're rocking at 17, and physical resist, I hate to tell everybody, is the primary damage type that almost everything uses. So having this closer to, say, like 20-25 would be probably in your best interest. Heat resist, also about 20-25 would be really good. Warp resistance, you don't really need much of this. Unfortunately, we get a bunch of this because of the build and, some of the stuff we've gotten. But the reality is you don't really need it. Absolutely don't need it that much. I would say dropping this down to 25 and then trying to get the rest of those points over to, say, physical resist would be amazing. But it's probably not going to happen. But anyway. Alright, looking at the rest of the attributes here, we're looking down at the attack here. We got critical hit chance of 20%. Well, actually, it's a lot closer to 33%, and we'll talk about that when we get to the skills. Crit hit strength, bonus damage, or melee damage, 31%. Good portion of that comes from the warfare tree. We've got physical damage of 17. A good portion of that comes from some of the gear. Then we get down here to survival. HP regeneration of 45. That's important. Suppression regeneration of 5. I know some of you look at suppression regeneration as a meh filler type affix on gear, but trust me, it's actually not that bad. Movement speed of 20. Holy shit, this is a fast tank. Yes, it's because of an armor prefix. Trust me on that. Focus regeneration, 0.75. Better than 0.25. Just going to say that now. HP regained per hit, 29. Now, in general, HP regained per hit is considered one of the weakest ones in the game. But trust me, in this build and with this gear, it actually works phenomenally well. Alright, so let's talk about perks here. Very similar to the Airstick Hydra, we went with the Burnished Weapons to have that massive deflect bonus. We went with the Friends-on Dispenser to get the crit hit chance there. That way it plays well into our Power Axe's primary attack and actually jacks us up to 30% right there. Well, 32% really. And we also went with Fate Mastery. Damage bonus equal to your deflect value, so that 70% is always there. Pretty nice, right? Now, I know some of you might be arguing and say, hey, you could replace that Friends-on Dispenser with the Call of the Week. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But then our ability of spiking damage on bigger targets like, say, Hellbrutes and things of that nature goes away. And that's pretty much a majority of how we tear through those things. Remember, guys, 50% is one thing. A critical is 1.5 to 3.5. So just right there, focusing more on the critical than the base can actually have a little bit better of a payout. But in testing, in a limited number of attacks, and I actually did test this, where I went up and I attacked the same creature, and it was the exact same creature because I did deliberately reset it to make sure it would be. I attacked it and I hit 25 times on it with both weapons, and what I discovered was that the Call of the Week actually ended up creating more damage output than the critting. However, the critting took less time to do it. So it is what it is. It's kind of hard to explain it, right? I don't know. It's like when I was using the Call of the Week, I was kind of forced to run away a couple times and allowed the creature to regen, so it took longer. But with the crit focused one, we were able to just like drop several like 1,200 to 3,000 hits on the target, and then he just kind of fell down real quick. So yeah, and yes, we are talking about those big, huge demons, not tanks and all that. So I don't know. I still want to play around with it more. I like the Friends on Dispenser more than I like the Call of the Week, but again, that's dealer's choice. Whatever you prefer is probably what you're gonna go. Both are valid options. And of course, Fate Mastery you obviously need because, well, you already are stacking a ton of deflection. All right, so let's talk about the skill points here. Before we get into anything else, I'm just going to say right now, your first 5 points really need to be spent here. Increasing your deflect bonus and getting back some of that damage reduction. And the reason why I say spend it here rather than something that deals damage is it's better to get some of that defensive aspect of your build out of the way. And 5 points to get there, that's actually pretty damn good. All right, now once you get that taken care of, you're going to want to head over to close combat. Now, our build focuses on the axe, and because of that, instead of going to close combat immediately afterwards, we went right here. All right, so we grabbed these 4 points right here. So here we are at 8 points, and bam, there you go. That slow effect plays to our axe quite nicely, as you'll see here, because this whole top row increased melee damage by 5% when the target is slowed, shocked, stunned, or frozen. Well, we get to have that. So that's 20% right there we gain. And critical hits and melee provide a +1 stacking vulnerability to the target. So now, because of that right there, the exposed weakness, that kind of makes this whole concept of pushing my crit value higher and higher make a lot more sense, right? We're increasing vulnerability, thus increasing damage output, etc., etc., etc. It actually does add up, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And, of course, you're going to want to probably focus everything into this tree here. I will say right now, sorry about the train, the whole off combo, don't need because we don't do combo. Grants plus 50% suppression damage bonus for flesh bane attacks. We don't do flesh bane attacks. So these two are absolutely useless. Everything else, though, is actually pretty good. Hasten, absolutely awesome. Repose, great. Sweeping strikes, awesome. So grab everything here, with the exception of these two, and you'll be fine. Now, moving on to your next actual damage tree, we are talking about physical attacks. So you really want to come up this tree. And again, we're going to have two areas here that you may want to consider. Incensed weapons, plus 5% damage to all skills that deal damage with less than 1 second cooldown. Okay, so that's pretty much just a strike on my axe, or plus 10% damage against bleeding enemies. Personally, I went this route, though this would give you more damage against things like Hellbrutes and engines and things of that nature. So this definitely pays out more on that aspect. This definitely pays out more against some of the regular trash mobs and or Space Marines when you're playing. And the reason why I went this route is because I was already planning on doing the harder red missions, and there a lot of times you'll be hitting and you're not getting enough damage to actually clear them out one swing. Well, this kind of helps push us beyond that point, so it's actually really nice. Alright, so now you've gotten through the physical tree, you've gotten up to the concussive trauma, which is very nice, and you're going to start seeing something. When you're attacking these big heavy targets, right, the first hit going to be small. The next hit is going to be increased value. The third hit is going to be even more increased value. By the time you get to the fifth hit, you're going to start plateauing. And you're going to get some spike damage here or there because of vulnerabilities as well as criticals, but you're pretty much just going to, ramp up to a point of just like every hit is a monstrous boom, boom, boom. And then you're throwing the crits on there, and then it's just even more devastating. When you start seeing like crits that are like 3.5 times the amount you're doing, and let's say you've like got yourself up to say about 400, and then here comes this crit for like 3, and you see that 1200, you're like, oh, which actually would be 900, but that's the point. But you get what I'm saying. Actually, no, it would be 1200. It's pretty impressive. It is very, very impressive. And it works pretty good. And I like it. Now, is it any more efficient than a Psyker? No. Is it more inefficient than a Psyker? Everything's more inefficient than a Psyker. Let's just get that on the table now. Psykers are OP beyond OP. Alright, so you got done here, but let's say you're not getting that many criticals. You really want to start pushing more in. Well, you only need to spend 5 points. You could do more. You absolutely could do more, and that would probably be a good idea, but I just chose to do 5. It made more sense. So right here, these 2 points spent automatically gives us 3% more crit. And when you look at the table or the stat sheet, it only shows like 20. It's actually 22 because of this. All right. Now come here, and we decided we were going to increase our crit hit strength as well as grab this lovely thing. So, since our build's already focused on doing multiple hits to the same target and just building up damage, we figured, hey, while you're building up your damage, how about increasing your crit hit chance? That makes a lot of sense. That way, as you're going to be hitting your crits, let's say like 2, 3, 4 hits in. So you already got this inflated amount, and then here comes the crit, kaboom. Much better turnout of results, and personally I like it that way. I really do. It actually is a lot of fun when you see it. It just makes me love this build so much. Alright, so there's your crit. Now coming back to the more supportive ends of this game, we've got to talk about here. You're going to be using a lot of focus stuff, especially if you're using armor that jumps you around, or possibly armor that drops out turrets, and getting some regeneration on that's actually really important. So right here, boom. You could actually go this route. That way, every time you use focus, you're gaining HP. That's actually a really smart play. And I've been tempted to actually switch this around, but I'm having no deficiencies in gameplay that actually warrant this change at this time. So I think I'll just wait till we get more levels, and then I'll focus there. Hit point wise, we decided we were going to focus on 3 specific areas. We wanted to get this, just in case, we're playing in these impossible missions. We drop below 50%. We're getting that plus 20 HP per second. Well, guys, that's basically jacking us up to 65 HP generation a second, which is pretty phenomenal. Combine that with our HP on hit, can actually be very self-sustaining. Very self-sustaining. Alright. Down here, heals the character 1 HP for every 10 suppression points gained. Seems like a no-brainer. With every successful deflect, 5 suppression points are regained. Well, guys, we have a 70% deflection rate, and we use a shield, which we can increase that deflection rate just by holding it up every so often. So we can actually regenerate a lot of our suppression right there, which in turn is going to give us a little bit of a bleed over in HP regeneration, which is quite nice. Also, little side note here, and a little gimmick trick I'm going to let you guys in on, and it's one of the reasons why I am using a personal void shield. Alright, so you're fighting, right? You've lost all your suppression, you're getting all fucked, you're starting to take damage. Pop your void shield at that point. Don't pop it going into the battle. Wait till you've lost suppression. Here's why, guys. Void shield will actually restore all your suppression. And because you just gained back a ton of suppression, you're going to gain back a ton of life. Remember, guys. In theory, you're supposed to. Remember, we have 5,000 suppression. Alright? So if we were to regenerate 5,000, that's still 500 HP we just regenerated. True, that's only like 10%, but still, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's nowhere near as good as Inocular, but it's still pretty good. And it definitely plays into the whole self-sustain. Will you ever truly be able to sustain any amount of damage that comes in? No. You really can't. Like, if you're talking about, like, impossible missions here, I don't think it is actually physically possible because of the amount of increased damage that's coming in that you'll be able to do it. And also, little side note here, guys. While it does say 70% deflection there, in impossible missions, it's not acting as 70%. In all honesty, it's a lot closer to, say, 50 to 45%. True fact. So, yeah. Alright. So, yeah. Hit points, always good. Support, always good. And last but not least, we went down the Puritan path. And we only took 3 points here. I didn't really see the need of going anything more at this time, because this whole top row here, not even active. And the ones we went with are the increased damage against pretty much everything in the game. Incoming warp damage types are reflected to the attacker, dealing 30% of the original damage. This is just hilarious when I get a Psyker trying to hurt me with warp damage. Like, yes, you could actually kill a Psyker with this shit. And of course we have Demonic Lore, which basically turns pretty much every single demon into our own personal bitch. And during the special event, we're actually getting a lot of value out of this one right here. Like, oh, you summoned that. 1, 2, 3, 4, dead. Alright, I've been shitting on, like, Space Marines that summon up these big, huge, Plague Riddens, and just, done. It's just been an amazing time. But you know what, guys? We've talked a lot about the theory of this build and everything of that nature, but I think you guys really want to see this thing in action, don't you? So let's get to that now. So in that video, we saw a lot of cool things. But besides some really awesome music from the 90s, we saw that our tank was just grinding through at plus 250. He was taking everything on quite nicely. Now, there were a couple rough spots there involving multiple Ogrins. Guys, I'm here to tell you right now, when you get a lot of concentrated fire from big things like Ogrins, and even Space Marines can cause this issue, you're going to lose a lot of suppression. This is why management of your personal Void Shield is really important, okay? Now, yes, we were running around with our Void Shield on quite a bit, but we had some gear that basically allowed us to do that, due to the fact that there was supplies dropped all over the place. So, while yes, we were able to do that, doesn't mean that was the right thing to do, okay? But all in all, the build successfully went through an impossible scenario of plus 250. Now, yes, Psychers have been doing this since day one, and it's no big surprise, but when you look at the efficiency rating of a Psyker versus the efficiency rating of a Satyr, it's kind of night and day, all right? But we lived up to the title of being a tank. Now, before we end this video, I want to talk a little bit about gear here, all right? So, when it comes to gear, there's a couple things you have to understand. One, you need to always play to the stats that are the most important to you. And as we discussed earlier, that's pretty much damage reduction and deflection. Okay, so, first thing we're going to talk about is your armor. Now, I go with the assault armor. Why? Because it has the highest damage reduction for the Satyr, and a decent amount of all resistance. Now, this particular one has a nice little special relic affix of giving plus 10% movement speed if no damage received in the last 5 seconds. Well, guys, you know how I love my personal Void Shield? Ding, ding. So, yeah, we get to walk around basically at 20% movement speed most of the time, which is really nice. All right, and of course, we've got suppression, which, as you saw, suppression is really good. We got damage reduction, just a flat, regular, no melee or range, just boom. We're gaining 3.9 to all resistances. We get a little bit of focus and suppression. So this is actually a pretty solid piece of armor. It's not spectacular, but it's pretty solid. Now, the other things we need to talk about is the weapons and the shield. And as you see, yes, we do have another set that has a power hammer. Okay, so for the weapon here, we get this wonderful affix that basically says single hit, skills with single target, tag, deal area damage around the target. So guys, that's pretty much one skill. And that's going to be right here, strike. And we use strike pretty much 90% of the time. It's pretty much the core skill that we use in order to get all the benefits out of the skill perking, or the skilling and the perks that we have set up. And it works out pretty damn good. So the fact is, anything we hit with this is now basically acting like a shittier version of Wide Strike is pretty good. Little nuggets of knowledge here with this specific affix, and I don't know if this is intentional or not. Bleed damage or bleed dots do not apply from this. Okay, so if you hit somebody, he'll get the bleed dot, but everybody else who's getting caught by the AoE will not get the bleed dot. So there's that. Also, this only works on Horde type guys, regular type guys. It does not work on Space Marines. It does not work on Ogrins. It does not work on engines, and so on and so on. So champions and up are pretty much safe. There's also a regular guy who's kind of got like this big cannon that he's got to lift up. It doesn't work too well on those either. If you're like aiming for them, it won't spread off that very easily. It can actually hit them if you hit somebody else, but if you're aiming for them, it's not going to spread it. So keep that in mind. Also, another little caveat, if you've done this to one target and he didn't die, and you go up to hit that target again, it's not going to do the spread again. It absolutely will not. Anybody who got caught by the AoE the first time will not get caught by will not be able to trigger this relic's power again. So there's that little caveat, I guess. But as you can see here, we've got HP on hit, very important. A lot more damage suppression, always good. For our shield, we've got a lot of deflect already on the shield at 16, which is technically 32. But we also are adding another 4% deflect on top of that too. So I don't know if it's actually going to be 36 or it comes out to 40. It depends. So, but we'll say it's 36. That just makes life easier. And then of course you've got more damage reduction, damage to bleeds, crit strength, focus, you know, pretty standard stuff here. And everything else we have here pretty much plays to sustainability and more damage, to be perfectly honest with you. The only item we have that's kind of wonky right now is this eye implant, and I've had this since, like, as you can see, item level 13. Really, I need to roll the dice on two of these things here, the armor shield piercing tag, since we don't do that, and the dot duration. If I could get better affixes there, then that would be awesome. Over here, we've got a pretty standard main implant, as you might see, but that 20% resist knockdown and knockback is really helpful. Coming down over here to the Purity Seal, more deflection, more self-sustain and defense, awesome. And we get to the Personal Void Shield, more self-sustain, more defense, and that's always good. Now, the Inoculator is probably one of the best pieces I have for a couple reasons. One, it fits the criteria that I like, which is 1 red, 2 green, 1 yellow. Now, with Inoculators, I love getting this right here, this Satrafine. That 50% movement speed is really helpful. I use this on every single Inoculator for all of my characters, whether it be my Psyker or my Satyr, just because getting around is so important, and being able to disengage from a battle that's going horribly wrong is how you stay in the game and how you not fail certain tarot missions. I'm pretty sure, though, for my Assassin, I will not be going this route, because Assassins have so many movement abilities, it just seems a little silly to add even more. And in all honesty, I could use that spot to increase the damage output, so there's that. But we like having 2 greens just so we can get the cooldown low nicely, and we're using Blood Balm, so we get a really nice restoration, which will allow us to fight through the damage quite nicely. So yeah, there's that. We get this nice little Inoculator capacity, which really helps out, considering Blood Balm is a little bit pricey in terms of Inoculator usage, so this does kind of shave a little bit off of it, but not much. And we have this wonderful affix right here. Medium and elite kills have a 15% chance of dropping a supply pack. So remember before when I was saying, you know, yes, I am able to run around with Personal Void Shield up most of the time. And you probably won't be, and you probably shouldn't try for that. The only time I say that's not true is if you have this ability, okay? So you'll constantly have these things dropping around all over the place. Now, when you get up to the impossible missions, usage of your Void Shield is going to be pretty much, oh fuck, I'm going to die. And you're going to probably run really close to almost exhausted on it every single time. So being able to re-up these quite quickly without having to, you know, play your engagements a little bit more cautiously until you find another supply box is really helpful. Alright guys, well that's all I really wanted to talk about the gear, and that's pretty much the build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, any questions, leave them down below in the comment section. And as always, guys, thank you for watching, and may orange juice bless you. I'm out.